year. All right? Take only what you need. There's some stuff that you've been taking from the past. That stuff, you don't need that stuff. And that stuff is really keeping you from being the real you want to be. So only take what you need and leave the stuff you don't need. All right, so what do you mean, E.T.? I'm talking about like the great memories, the blessings and the lessons. Like take that. Take the joy and the laughter, for real, and the love. Like family and real friends, all right? Then do me a huge favor. Like leave the shame, the guilt, all right? The pain of the past. Leave all of that. Leave the fear. Let the fear go. The worry, the anxiety, the stress. Like let that go, all right? Look, it's a new year. It's a new you.
Hello and good evening. Thank you for joining me tonight on Real Talk with Jean Price. I am excited that you decided to stop by. Listen, this is our first show for the fall season of 2022, and we have some great things that are in store. As you saw from the video that was just playing, we're going to be diving in and talking about some issues from the inside man and then how it shows out on the outside. But before we get into that, we want you to like, we want you to comment, and of course, we want you to share. We want this season to be one of the best seasons that we've ever had. We have some great things in store. Listen, you know, around the holidays, we like to do Jean favorite things. We want you to be a part of every show that comes on at 6:30 on Wednesdays. And we want you to be able to tell other people, listen, we're going to talk about some things that might be relevant to what you're going through or what somebody else is even going through. So tonight's show is going to be great because we're going to literally take a blast from the past. And we want to go over a couple of shows that we thought that were just so inspiring. They were completely inspirational. Things that we talked about that just kind of made you really go back and think like, you know, maybe I need to consider this or maybe I need to consider that. So this is the kind of show that we want you to take a good look at it. You might want to write it down or take some viewpoints as well. But we thought that these three different topics really, really hit home. And they kind of work. It's great because we're going to talk about the inside, but we're also going to talk about the outside. But we want to dive in deep into some of the things that we thought were very inspirational. So listen, we want you to take a look at the first video with my dear friend, Shaniqua Cousins. Just watch this video. You said something that was so powerful, right? So I want to go back. You said the chicken is organic chicken thighs, right?
Yep.
So what is your take on a correlation between using healthy, fresh, organic ingredients? How, like, in other words, does that make you feel more energized because of it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have all that those other ingredients in it that are good for us?
Yeah. So really, for me, for people who are not big on cooking, the first step is to just kind of walk yourself into, so say for instance, if you eat out typically 5 times a week,
right?
Or say you eat out 7 times a week, let's just say right. 7 times. Try to back into just at least figuring out how to consume and cook what you're eating. So you may go from 7 days a week down to say, let's 5 days a week, right? And if you could just focus on cooking the food, step one would be to eat food in its natural state as possible. So even before you get into the organic versus conventional, let's just get you into actually preparing your own food. Because if you prepare it, you're going to know what's in it.
That's
now,
right.
when you get down to that level of if I'm controlling what I'm cooking, when you look at conventional food, meaning foods that animals that are eating corn and other things that they probably shouldn't be eating compared to organic animals that are eating things that naturally, that they should be naturally consuming, bugs, grass, if it's a cow, things like that. Those are what animals should be eating on. And so quality of that food is going to be much better versus an animal eating things that it shouldn't be eating. Right. So if we're going to be consuming animal products and or if we're going to be consuming plant products, you want to get them in their natural state, right? So organic veggies don't have all the pesticides and things on them. So we want to make sure we're consuming vegetables that don't have those pesticides on them because we're consuming systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go from, if we're eating out 7 days a week, let's just back it in, give ourselves a realistic goal that works for us, and let's just bring it in and say, you know what? I'm going to cook 3 times this week. And if I'm going to cook it, let me at least start with the best quality products that I can afford for
Yes.
myself. Okay?
It makes a lot of sense. It does. It does.
Go ahead.
No, so I want to go back one more. I want to go back to what you're going to do with you prep that. How important is prepping for as far as time management?
It is so crucial, right? So let me put these in here because my pan is getting a little hot. So
right, because you're cooking, I'm not.
yes. Jean, the pan is smoking.
It's smoking. Put the vegetables in that pan. I'm talking and I'm going to burn your.
I cut up some fresh squash,
okay,
red onions, and white onions. And you know why? Look at the color profile here, right?
Beautiful.
You want to eat with color. That's really important. You want to consume foods that have a lot of color in them.
Okay.
Because color means nutrients. They're more nutrient dense. And so you went back and you said, what was the question that you had?
I wanted to talk because everything is prepped. So I wanted you to just talk to us for a few minutes about that. Prepping is so important for as far as time management is concerned.
It is. So let's go back one more step.
Sure.
When it comes to quality, you also want to be looking at the quantity and what you're eating and really having control over those things, right? So when it comes to prepping, getting yourself on let's just get to the goal setting. If I'm going to eat 3 times, if I'm going to cook it 3 times a week, what do I need? And a lot of us, we're stressed for time, right? And so we're going to run out. And a lot of times we're buying a lot of processed, prepackaged, already sliced, already diced things, right? And while there's nothing wrong with that, if you can buy vegetables in bulk, or you can buy vegetables from your local market compared to things coming 30 miles or 40 miles or 100 miles from your home, they're going to be fresher. They're going to be better for you. So if you have already set a goal for yourself, time management is key, right? Time to prep the food, time to decide on what we're eating, when we're eating it, all of those things. You want to take that into consideration because it does take time to prep your food. Right. And so what I did, I knew I needed to be here, so I had to take the time to dice the veggies. I didn't buy these veggies diced. I took the time, diced the veggies, washed them, the whole nine. So you want to take the holistic picture and keep the holistic picture in mind whenever you're cooking. So it's about not just cooking at home, but making sure you're setting yourself up. You're clearing the clutter from your schedule. You're clearing the clutter from all the other areas in your life so that you can win at this here cooking at home. And really cooking at home is really about consuming what you're eating. A lot of times we don't feel well because we're bogged down with the foods we eat. Believe it or not.
That's true.
Our systems are bogged down because we have no idea of what we actually consume because we didn't partake in the preparation of the food. Right. We didn't partake in understanding the ingredients that are in the food. And so a lot of times we're putting things into our tank. We're putting things into our system, and we have no idea of what we're putting into our system.
Yeah, it's so true. So the vegetables that you're making, and I see they're cut up and everything. Do they normally take about how much time for the vegetables to get ready?
Oh, that's like a 5-minute job. So for me, getting vegetables from my local farmer's market is so important, or my local health food store. It's literally right around the corner from my house. And so at the beginning of the week, I'm figuring out what is it that I'm going to be eating this week and what vegetables do I want to have, because we don't want to have food waste.
Right.
So having a schedule and having a target is so key for what you're doing. And then the summertime is so great because we have an abundance of fresh fruit and veggies that are just popping out in the garden, right? And then if you don't have fresh fruit and veggies, I would ask that you move to frozen. So if you want to get it in the lineup, you want to start with as fresh as possible, frozen, and then let canned veggies be a last resort.
Yeah, right.
Literally. And here's why. You have a lot of aluminum, you have a lot of sodium.
Yes.
So when it comes to, remember the last time I was on the show, I talked about shopping. And you should shop the perimeter of a supermarket before you shop the middle. Because everything that's in the middle, most of the stuff that's in the middle, most of it, not all of it, but most of it it has a shelf life. And if something is going to sit on the shelf, it has to have preservatives and sodium and all the things to keep it on the shelf for longer.
Right.
This stuff is going to go bad longer because you should.
Wow. Again, that was probably one of my favorite shows, listening to my dear friend Shaniqua talk about eating healthy. Because when you think about eating healthy, right, I think we all kind of go through this thing where I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to do better. But she really said some powerful things. One of the things I love what she talked about was prepping. But I love the fact that she made prepping fun. She talked about the color of her vegetables. She talked about how much time it took to put the vegetables. But it's so many key points that was said today. She even talked about how it's better to cook than to eat out. And I think some of us said no from a health perspective, that eating healthy and coming home and cooking your food, you know how much sodium you're putting in your food, you know everything that's going to go in, so that you yourself can watch what you eat, especially those that might be diabetics, those that may suffer from high blood pressure. It's so important I love what she said, that to cook your own food and eat it home. Now, my hand must be raised because I'm not that. I am very guilty of eating out sometimes because I'm on the run. But even listening to the show again, it sparks so many great tools and so many great things that I even need to go back to doing as far as eating healthy. And again, she talked about going to the farmer's market, going to places that you can go to get your food, leaving the canned food to the very end. Because, right, you all know that eating canned food is really, really not good for you. She is such a great reminder, especially in a day like today, that eating healthy is so important. Now, I do understand that buying organic is more expensive than buying other vegetables and so forth. And I understand, limited funds, people can't, always buy it. But again, just even buying those fresh vegetables opposed to eating vegetables that are in the can, as I stated. She also mentioned something that was so true that I love the fact was, she talked about how, listen, it's what we consume that makes the difference, right? And especially, when you get to certain ages, if you consume wrong products that are going to hurt your health, you want to make sure you consume those things that are going to make you feel good and be vibrant, right? So I'm going to do this. I'm not going to wait till January of 2023 to make a resolution and talk about I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to start now. I'm going to make sure that I apply what I heard again. So listen, if you want the playback to that show, please go back and look at it on my page, because you want to start eating healthy, because it's extremely important. Another one of our shows that really was great was Pastor Adrienne Knight. She's not just my pastor. We not just respect her and Bishop Knight. We love them. Like, we're friends, and we love them as our leaders. This was such an awesome show for those that are secondary leadership, for those that are wives that have husbands that are in ministry. You want to watch this show because we dove into some deep questions. We dove into things that were on the minds of leadership and those that needed answers, like, how do you do this and how do you do that? Why don't we take a look and see what Pastor Adrienne had to say about women being in ministry? Take a look. How do we speak to the elders that are steeped in the word? Oh, this is good, but not in the work. Angela, that's a good question. Good question. Good question. How do we speak to the elders that are steeped in the word, but not in the work? That's a little broad, but we can kind of narrow it down. What do you think, Pastor A?
I was thinking the same thing. That's a little broad. I think what we definitely have to do is, and it goes both ways, but in this case, I think we have to remind and reinforce to our elders that we need them. We have to take that approach. That we, steep in the word, but not in works. So I am assuming that I shouldn't assume. But I think we have to, again, I'll go back and say, we have to let them know that we're watching and that we see and that they are vital. And there is a piece of accountability. Now, how we say all of that is the key. How we relate information is very important, because we can get somebody to reject our ideas really quickly depending on how we bring them to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
True.
I will say that change is slow, it's gradual, and patience. We just, we need to be, we're going to need to be patient
Yeah, it's
in
true.
order to be able to bridge that gap.
Yeah,
You
absolutely. Absolutely.
know,
Angela gave I guess a part B to her question, Pastor Adrian, and she said the work of accepting, yeah, accepting the newness of change and understanding, which you actually just touched on a few minutes ago about change. And you notice again, the scripture that came to my mind is that God calls what the strong, He calls the old because they're strong.
right.
You know what I mean? I mean, He calls the old because they know the way. The scripture
They
that
know what, right,
and
right.
I
You
love
got
it.
it.
Yeah, in my mind, because I'm thinking of the seniors, even in our church, we reverence our seniors every Sunday, every single Sunday. Bishop, whether I'm ministering the Word of God or he's ministering, we reverence our seniors because change is hard sometimes, right? But guess what? Change is even hard for us. Anything
Absolutely.
that's new, whether you're on a job or anything, it kind of makes you feel a little uncomfortable. So sometimes we're not sure, right, what other people might be going through. But I love what you said. It's the patience part.
And we have to, it's we have to we have to see them as necessary and vital. Um, the Bible talks to us about bestowing honor. And let's face it, there may be some things that they will not accept. But if we will entreat them,
Yes.
they will tolerate some things because we properly entreat and honor them. And it's the same way with trailblazing for those that are coming behind us. We have to really instill upon them that they are vital, that we need them, that our journey is not complete without them, you know, and sometimes, we may make them feel like, oh, I don't need you. I got, no, no, no.
We
I
need
absolutely need your life. I
yes,
need your stamina. I need your ideas. I need your vitality, your
yes,
ideas, vitality, your style. My daughter's constantly telling me, Mom, no, Mom, yes, Mom. I need,
yes, yes.
I need, that that input.
Wow, that was such a great show. That's one of the ones you got to go back and look at. That topic was so powerful. That question really stirred up a lot as far as for secondary leadership, just being able to understand, and I hope they heard the heart of Pastor Adrian about how vital you are to the ministry. She even touched a little bit on the generation that's coming behind us, that you're vital to the ministry, your ideas, your thought processes, all of that is vital to the ministry. And I touched on the fact of how in our church, we honor the seniors because we want them to know that they're vital and that they're so important to us that we want them to know their work is not over. We still appreciate their input. We want them to know that they're loved, they're special. I mean, even to the point we remember every birthday, we send flowers, we do this, we do that. Because at the end of the day, that's how God does with us, right? He's constantly letting us know how important we are to Him. And it's extremely important for us to let other people know that they're important to us. And that's what ministry really is about. It's about a bunch of people coming together with one mind, one heart, one thought process to do the work of God in the ministry. And it is important to let people know that they're important. Young people nowadays, they have ideas. They're vibrant. They want to know, are you hearing what I'm saying? Can you take a peek at what I'm doing? Our young people, we're actually establishing a new initiative with some of the young people in our church, and to see how they think opposed to how we were coming up with our pastor is so different. I mean, they're into the smart boards and this and that. So it is crucial. It is important that secondary leadership, the younger generation, and even us that are still doing the work, everybody needs to know that they're important in the ministry. Everybody is somebody in the house of God. And I love the fact that that's how God deals with all of us. So if you watch that show, you want to watch it in its entirety because we talked about some other things, but it is important. And you know what? All of us are trailblazers. We're trailblazers to the generation that's coming behind us, and the generation that's before me. They're trailblazers to us. So everybody is important to God in the house, in his house. So listen, we want to take a commercial break, but we have another clip we want you to see. We'll be right back after this.
This new year, all right, take only what you need. There's some stuff that you've been taking from the past. That stuff, you don't need that stuff. And that stuff is really keeping you from being the real you want to be. So only take what you need and leave the stuff you don't need. All right, so what do you mean, E.T.? I'm talking about like the great memories, the blessings and the lessons. Like take that. Take the joy and the laughter, for real, and the love. Like family and real friends, all right? Then do me a huge favor, like leave the shame, the guilt, all right? The pain of the past, leave all of that. Leave the fear, let the fear go, the worry, the anxiety, the stress, like let that go, all right? Look, it's a new year, it's a new you.
Welcome back to Real Talk. We've been having a great show tonight. We're talking about a blast from the past, and we talked about cooking. We talked about clearing the clutter when you have to cook and you have to get organic vegetables and really make your health, stand out, because that's really what it's all about right now. Then we dove into a show that I did with Pastor Adrian Knight, and it's called Women in Ministry. And it was just a great question that went forth as to taking the word opposed to the work that is being done. Now, this is another show that we had that we thought was really good. And it's a couple by the name of the Wilsons. And they are relationship experts. And their testimony alone will cause you to want to search them out and see what they're really all about. But this was such a great show. And this one, I'm not going to say much more. Take a look at this. What are some of the ways that people can reserve their relationships? Because you have to value it. And I love the analogy that both of you said, especially about spending a lot of money on a wedding, but then you're not willing. And let me go back. It's investment.
That's right.
It's investment.
Correct.
And we need to see an ROI on our investments.
Correct.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Like we need
That's
to see,
right.
okay, what's my return on this investment? But what are you willing to put into invest?
That's
Amen.
right.
You know
That's
what I'm
right.
saying? And that's what I hear the two of you saying. And we've been married 37 years. And I love the two of you. And especially when you said it's continual.
Yeah, that's right.
It's continual.
It's
and if I can
ongoing.
be transparent, I was 18 when I got married. My husband was 19. But to what Sister Denise said, I brought in the 3-year-old that was molested till she was 15 when I got married at 18. So you're right in your point, and if people are listening, we bring into the marriage where we stopped. At 3, I stopped. So I'm in a marriage at 18, but he married a 3-year-old.
Right.
Talk about
See?
it. Talk about that.
So what
Talk
you
about
said
it.
is so true. And can
Absolutely.
I tell you, oh my goodness, if I would have known what I know now, I'm glad I did, because it was good I was afflicted, because I learned to love is law. But if I would have known what I know now, I would have done counseling a long time ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand the process.
Right.
Yes.
So
And in
Yes, sir.
our community, it's not something that is encouraged.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we don't do as a people, and especially as Black men, what we don't do well is we don't do self-help well.
Okay.
We don't do it
Why
well.
is that?
Because it will require transparency and vulnerability, which is something that we as men, we
Yes.
struggle with. That's why we always make sure that we commend men
Mhm.
when they're sitting before us, with their wives or with their fiance or with their
Absolutely.
whoever, we make sure we commend the men
So,
for being there, because we know that it's not the norm for men. A lot of men they're just not willing to do it. I don't need to talk to nobody. I don't need nobody. I don't need them in my business.
Mhm,
You know
mhm.
what I'm saying?
Yes,
So
I do.
it's a mindset, and
That's
what
a stigma
happens
too.
is it's a stigma. Yeah, and what we do is
Yes,
we perpetuate it, and it's ongoing. We pass it down.
so true. So saying that, the Wilsons, do you feel that social media can ruin relationships?
Oh,
It has
absolutely.
and it is.
All right, let's
Absolutely.
let's
Oh,
talk about
absolutely.
that.
I
Let's
was
talk about
so,
that.
I was so not a social media person.
Hmm.
I mean, at all. Our mentor, our counselor, our mentor, absolutely, because I know for me, it plagued us,
Okay.
right? It did, because you can literally have a whole nother relationship in social media
Hmm.
and just not realize the time that
Right.
you're vested in
Correct.
sitting there.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
even
Right.
just to have a you wouldn't even look up to
Mhm,
talk. You understand the art of
mhm.
dialogue and conversation
Hmm.
is almost next to nil.
Yes, it's
You
lost.
understand? It is at a loss because people don't have conversations. They do a quick yeah, no, a sign, an emoji. Like, where is the conversations? And and a lot of times, even with dealing with our clients, the highest thing we see in dealing
Mhm.
with our clients is communication.
Correct.
Okay.
That's the main issue.
Mhm.
And social media, I mean, we had one time someone, is it necessary for us to have to post? And if you have to ask that question, then that means you don't want to. And why do you have to?
Right.
Because it is the now thing doesn't mean everybody has to do it. And it can be
Right.
very much minimized.
Right.
We actually had to tell some people, you need to fast your social media when it's Lent or when it's Sundays, or pick a day where
Yeah.
you're not on social media at all, put it away and
Mhm.
have a
Dialogue.
dialogue, speak,
Yes.
talk to one another. You
Yes.
understand? What is my favorite color? What is my favorite food?
Right.
What
Right.
do I like? What don't
Mhm.
I like? What's my passion? What have
Right.
a conversation. And social media definitely can be, because people want to live up to what people see,
That's what I was gonna say.
right? And so
Yeah.
we were just talking about something earlier. I don't want to mention names, but what the presentation of something, and then internally inside you're dying.
We could have kept that video going just a little bit longer. It was so good. Talking to the Wilsons, they were talking about how you master your relationship, and so many key points came up in that. And what is mastering? Mastering is learning something thoroughly so that you know how to do it well. And they gave those good points. And I want to start with the latter part of the video when they talked about social media and how social media has taken the place of having literally generic um, conversations with whoever you're in relationship with, whether it's your mate, your parent, your child, anybody. So it really has like taken the place of relationships. So the Wilsons talking about that is so important because everything is social media. People spend all day on social media, and I think we do miss the essence, right, of having those conversations, of being able to talk, being able to share. And it's so important to literally have those conversations, sit down, and just go back and forth and see what's going on. Another thing that Mr. Wilson talked about was transparency and vulnerability with men. I'm not a man, but I want to bring it in from a woman's perspective because I think the same thing applies. I think that sometimes transparency is necessary. I feel vulnerability is necessary. It's not always easy, but it's necessary to do. So the key point would be then, how do you be transparent? How do you be vulnerable? I think there's some key points that stand out because people oftentimes are afraid. It could be shame based. It could just be just an element of fear that's there. But being able to dialogue and talk about it is so important because you want to be able to share what you're thinking and you're feeling. Another thing that was mentioned on that video was an ROI. And the ROI is what? A return on investment, and how relationships are an investment. And relationships take work. You have to be willing to dive in, to be a part of it, to know the ins, to know the outs, to want it to work. And there's so many other factors that are involved, and I get it. And it can make you feel like you don't want to do it. But if I can encourage somebody tonight, though it may be hard, though it may seem impossible, step out there, do it, and know that, especially for those of us that are saved and Christians and love God, just know that God is with you. Ask God for a strategy. Ask God for a plan. And even when you have those moments of giving up, say, no, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep working at it. If it could be mother-daughter relationship, it could be father-son. It could be any kind of relationship. But just kind of get out there, jump out there, and just do it. It's so, so important. Another thing that I thought was great from this video is self-help. I don't know if we take the time to really do self-help in our relationships and things that we need. That is so important. And self-help sometimes can just be like self-care. Taking the time to know what you need and do it is very, very important. Means, and we go back to the first video, right? Eating healthy. That's self-help. That's self-care. Talking and having those relationships where you can know what the other person is thinking as well as sharing what you feel. That's also self-care. Because remember when I started the video tonight, I talked about how we want to start, what we're going to be doing in the fall. We're going to be working on the inside, from the inside out, because your inside, what goes on in here, oftentimes will begin to show on the outside. So it's really, really important that we take the time to work on the inside man. What I want to do right now is I want to show you that commercial clip, because I think it was such a powerful clip and it was kind of quick. And I want you to just listen to what the gentleman is saying, because we're going to learn how to let go of the past. We're going to learn how to move forward with our future and start talking and feeling and being about those positive things. Instead of the anger, let's talk about joy. Let's watch this clip one more time. The commercial clip right now. Watch this.
This new year, all right, take only what you need. There's some stuff that you've been taking from the past. That stuff, you don't need that stuff. And that stuff is really keeping you from being the real you want to be. So only take what you need and leave the stuff you don't need. All right, so what do you mean, E.T.? I'm talking about like the great memories, the blessings and the lessons. Like take that. Take the joy and the laughter, for real, and the love. Like family and real friends, all right? Then do me a huge favor, like leave the shame, the guilt, all right? The pain of the past, leave all of that. Leave the fear, let the fear go. The worry, the anxiety, the stress, like let that go, all right? Look, it's a new year, it's a new you.
I'm so glad my production team showed that video one more time. I love the way it ended. We're going to be talking about a lot in this fall season, the new you, and the new you from the inside out. That's going to be our goal. That's going to be our aim. So we want to thank you tonight for tuning in to A Blast from the Past with Real Talk with Jean Price. We want to thank you for joining us every Wednesday at 6:30. We're excited about our fall season. Listen, we're going to be getting ready for Thanksgiving, getting ready for the holidays. You know, we did a show, and before and I want to talk about this, we did a show one year, and I had all my grandkids on the show. And when you see them this season that's coming up, they're taller, they're just older. I'm excited about the show that's going to come up with my grandchildren, because they have a lot to offer this time. This time, they're not going to be as quiet as they were the first time. But we want to take this time to thank you, as always, for joining us, for being with us on Real Talk with Jean Price. And as we prepare for Jean's favorite things, you want to kind of stay tuned. But before we go, there is a comment on the floor from Layla Barnes. And she said, I'm guilty of not making time to give myself the self-care and the love that's needed. Always helping others and working all the time. My encouragement to you tonight, Layla, before we end the show, is take time for yourself. You know how when you're on a plane, they always tell you to put, God forbid there's an emergency. They always tell you to put your mask on first, because once you get yours on, right, then you can help someone else. So that's really a great token to take away tonight. Work on yourself so that you can be a better version of yourself. People can get the other side of you. So then that way, when they see you, it becomes the new you. And I think people will really appreciate, Layla, when they do see how you take time for yourself. Because if you don't, people will keep taking that time from you. It's not being mean. Sometimes it's just that time to yourself, that walk that you need to take, that time to just, just go someplace in a restaurant and sit by yourself. I know some people, I'm not saying this is you, Layla, but some people don't like to take that time because you know what? But like Andrea just said, self-care is essential. It is so important to have self-care. And I think when you're a mom, you're a wife, and your children, your boss, so much going on, you do miss that. You do kind of skate over it. But can I encourage everyone that's listening tonight, take that time for yourself. I promise you, it will pay off in the end. So thank you tonight for joining me on Real Talk with Jean Price. Join me next Wednesday where we start our other fall season. You don't want to miss the topics that we have prepared for you. Thank you again. I'll see you next week on Real Talk with Jean Price.